Welcome back to another episode of a Wanderer's Way podcast. I'm your host, Dustin, and today is going to be a different one comparatively to the rest of my podcast episodes. And this is about what makes an employee leave their job. So, when we really take a look into what makes an employee leave their job, there are a lot of legitimate reasons why an employee will actually leave their job, no matter what their pay rate is, whether it's $20 an hour or $10 an hour. There are also some ridiculous things that some employees will just leave their job for, and I've seen both sides. I've experienced both sides. I've only been part of, well, I can't say I wasn't part of a ridiculous reason just because I am diagnosed with bipolar, and when I get manic, I just go into these ridiculous, irrational paths, and I don't even remember them. Hey, there was one time in New York City where my buddy helped me get on a bus. I don't know why I asked him for money. I don't even remember asking him for money. I got on the bus, left New York City, and went all the way down to North Carolina. I didn't know I was even on the bus until I got off the bus. And then my mind cleared out, and I got off my manic episode. When I got there, I was like, so I'm here. Yeah, so I've been part of that stuff before. I can't necessarily say it's fully ridiculous, seeing that it's mental health issues, but that was way back in the past. I have that under control now. I've actually been at my last job here for around 2 years. Yeah, so let's get into this. One of the things I'm going to bring up right now, just to make it very known, is the biggest cause of why an employee will actually leave their job is because of poor management and the manager themselves. And it always seems like a lot of managers will get this power desire. They're like, oh, I'm a manager. I can do whatever I want, anytime I want, however I want. And they will lose every staff that they have because of it, pretty sadly. You just can't get onto that power trip. You gotta stay away from that power trip. It's just that simple. But let's take a look at some of these ideas here of what influences so many employees leaving even a good job. So the one I want to talk about first is rules not being enforced. So they create all these rules in a workplace. They tell you, hey, this can't happen, this can't happen, you have to do this, and you have to do that. And then you agree to it. Everything's okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds fair. That's how it should be. Then everything starts working differently. And you start seeing how none of the rules are being enforced. Which leads to my second point. Zero accountability and standards for each employee. Which also translates to my third thing. Favoritism playouts. So all three of these work together in one rule. Rules with favoritism too. So you come to these times when some managers or supervisors, whatever they are, will have favorites. So those rules will not apply to them. And then they're not held accountable at all for the standards in the workplace, which all three of these together is just ridiculous. And it works against, it literally works against, because in a workplace, you cannot have favorites. You cannot favoritize anybody. I have nothing wrong with you being friends outside of work, but I do have something wrong when you're being friends inside of work. And what I mean by that is when you're being friends, You're just giving them all the attention, and you're always talking good about them. You're not criticizing them. You're not telling them what they need to change. No, that can't happen inside the workplace. Inside the workplace, you got to be the manager. You got to tell your staff, hey, there's no friendship here right now. You didn't do this right. This is your first warning where I'm writing you up. Like, you really have to keep that professionalism. You can't have favorites. It's that simple. And this pushes employees out. And let me tell you, I'm one of them. I won't stick there. Because when it comes too stressful for a job and someone's favoritizing someone, the rules only apply to you, but they don't apply to them. And then there's no accountability to them for anything that they break. It really creates this environment of anger. And there's times when I'm just so angry, I hate my jobs. And I've quit a lot of them for the same reason. And then you have another one, and this applies to certain businesses. So think about being a mandatory reporter, so in health services and such. But even most jobs, you have this open door policy, or at least you should, and at least they claim they do, but really you don't. Half the time you go in and report something and they act like it's important, but nothing's ever done. So it makes your reporting extremely meaningless, and it makes you feel like your voice does not matter. Now let's put that in perspective, and along the lines of everything else I just spoke about too, of rules not being enforced, zero accountability, and favoritism. Now you're doing reports of something that clearly breaks the rules, clearly breaks policy, whatever it is, or even harassment. I've even done that before for the harassment, report about it, because I couldn't resolve it myself. They didn't care. It was a friend, family friend. Nothing was done. So that was another job. I was like, bye, see ya. And then you have some staff in certain industries that would be abusive, whether it's physical or verbal. And instead of being changed out, fired, let go, they get moved to a different area. I don't think that is the appropriate action. When I look at an HR, I look at, oh, you're abusive. You're gone. There should be zero tolerance for abuse in any way, shape, or form. Zero. But there seems to be this, hey, there's zero tolerance of what we say. But when it comes down to it, people still get away with it. And these are the issues within the American industries of what I know versus the outside world. I don't know what else goes out other than like Japan and overworking and stuff. But there is a lot of issues that even progresses too. Let's take a look at how if someone wants you to work overtime. I've had it where you have that right to say no. You don't want to work overtime. You've already worked your 40 to 50 or even 60 hours that week, or you've already had overtime that week, and you want just your at least one day off, and then you get criticized for it. You get passed up for opportunities like a promotion just because you refuse to do one overtime. See, that's another issue, is there's all of this zero tolerance talk of harassment and abuse and all this stuff. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it seems that they really don't hold that standard up as they claim, which is actually pretty sad. Very, very sad. I hate the fact that it has to come to this. But I've left my job several times. I have had a lot of jobs, but I've also moved across the country hundreds of times too. And I'm about to do it again here. I've already put in my 2 weeks for my job. I'm not going to give specifics why, it's no one's business. But I possibly have a new job down in Oklahoma. I'm going to go spend time with my family because my plan is to spend the next year to save up money because I plan to go to the Philippines. If you guys didn't know already, I have a fiance in the Philippines, so I'm planning to marry her. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to stay here in America or go over there. Now, I know the job market in the Philippines is not the greatest and lower wages, like very low. However, I take at least a minimum of 10 grand over there. I'll be fine. Almost like a king. Not quite, but almost. At least over there. Here in America, 10 grand means nothing. But let's get on with the last thing I want to talk about. And this one is part of both legitimate and ridiculous. And why I say also part of ridiculous is because some people just think they are over deserving of the highest amount of wages possible when they're just starting out or they have no experience. So that's the ridiculous side of it. Plus side is wages. Simple as that. There's times when you're overqualified, but they want to underpay you. Or you're working too dang hard and there's not enough and they don't want to help you. Or with this situation of COVID, and if you're an essential employee and they just refuse to even give you even a 10 cents raise, for goodness sakes. So wages are important, and I understand that. But if you're just starting out, entry level, whatever, you can't sit there and be like, yeah, I want 20 an hour, please. When you're in a career field that's a max of 14 an hour possibly, and that's if you've been there for 20 plus years. So you gotta really pay attention to the job market, the theme of your job, the outlook of your job. Pay attention to your qualifications with your experience. Without experience, you don't deserve a higher wage. You start at the bottom and you work your way up. And that's what's apparently everyone's forgotten nowadays, as how to start at the bottom and work up. I seem to start at the bottom all the time and work up. But I also have things on the side, because the one thing I want is to be my own damn boss. I don't like listening to people looking over my shoulder and listening to them tell me, do this, do that. Not my thing. For now, I'll deal with it until I have the funds necessary, or everything else kicks off the way I want. So it all depends. These are the reasons I feel what makes an employee leave their job every day in America. If you have something else I have forgotten and didn't mention, which I'm very positive I have, just definitely leave me a message. Let me know. I will add it on to the next episode for a Q&A kind of style little part at the beginning of the episode. I'd like to hear your comments on this. Any experiences that you've gone through, the nitty gritty. Show me the details. Tell me your stories. With that being said, thank you for joining me for this episode, and I hope you have a wonderful week.